Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday, July 30th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, the Communist Party of China's announced plans for the 5th plenary session of its 20th Central Committee in Beijing in October. Pakistan says negotiations are ongoing to de-escalate the Middle East conflict between the U.S. and Iran. A Zambian copper mine, revived by a Chinese company, has become the unlikely subject of a hit song. In business, China's light industry sectors are growing in quality and scale. In sports, 2 Chinese snooker players have booked spots in the quarterfinals at the Shanghai Masters. In culture and entertainment, China's unveiled a new cultural heritage development plan. Now the day's top stories. The Communist Party of China will hold its 5th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee in Beijing in October. A political bureau meeting chaired by General Secretary Xi Jinping announced the decision on Thursday. The political bureau will report its work to the Central Committee, while the plenum will focus on advancing the party's full and rigorous self-governance. Thursday's meeting also reviewed the current economic situation and made arrangements for economic work in the second half of the year. The CPC Central Committees held a symposium with non-members to seek opinions on the country's current economic situation and economic work for the second half. General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee presided over the symposium and delivered a speech. He stressed the need to maintain a steady economic approach while pursuing progress, to fully implement the new development philosophy, and to accelerate efforts to foster a new development dynamic. He also called for enhancing the effectiveness of policies, expanding domestic demand, and promoting deeper integration of technological and industrial innovation. China's condemned the U.S. decision to further expand trade restrictions on Chinese tech products. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission has added foreign-made power inverters and advanced robotics devices to its covered list, a move preventing those products from obtaining FCC authorization and entering the U.S. market. The Chinese Commerce Ministry says the restrictions harm China's legitimate trade interests, undermine the stability of China-U.S. economic and trade ties, and disrupts the stability of global supply chains. It says the U.S. is overstretching the concept of national security, interfering in normal business activities, and pushing for economic decoupling through administrative means. And it's urged the U.S. to revoke those restrictions. Chinese tech startup Moonshot AI has fully open-sourced its latest flagship model, Kimi K3. Moonshot AI technician Fu Cheng explains the process.
We have open-sourced the complete model weights and distilled the core technologies into a tool chain, making them fully accessible to the public.
The language models built for complex reasoning, software engineering, and multimodal tasks. Zhong Xinlong with the China Electronics Information Industry Development Research Institute explained the benefits.
In the past, advanced models were mainly controlled by a small number of closed-source platforms, and enterprises mostly relied on purchasing AI capabilities. As open-source models have become mature, companies can now carry out secondary development using their own data, business workflows, and industry expertise to build AI applications that are better tailored to real-world scenarios.
China's open-source large AI models have become a pillar of the global open-source AI ecosystem. Cumulative downloads of Chinese open-way models have surpassed 10 billion worldwide, the highest in the world. The models are being integrated into key sectors of the real economy. China's set new climate goals under a national plan it released on Wednesday, aiming to cut carbon dioxide emissions by 2030. The plan would cut those emissions by 17% compared to 2025 levels. The plan also targets a 25% share of non-fossil energy in total consumption and aims to build a voluntary greenhouse gas reduction trading market. In the first half of the year, wind and solar power accounted for around a quarter of China's electricity use, while coal-fired power generation share dropped below 50% for the first time. China remains committed to peaking carbon emissions before 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality by 2060. China's electric heavy-duty truck industry is shifting into high gear. The country already runs the world's largest fleet of electric heavy trucks, and sales jumped nearly 80% in the first half of the year. By 2030, China aims to have 1.6 million of them on the road. Huang Fei takes a closer look at how the nation is scaling up electric freight.
Heavy-duty trucking is one of the toughest sectors to decarbonize. Bigger batteries mean more weight. Longer charging means lost time. And the logistics, time is money. But China believes it's found a way around that. The country plans to build more than 3,000 charging and battery swapping stations along key freight corridors and logistics hubs by 2030. In Guangdong, the latest megawatt charging technology can deliver around 100 kilometers of driving range in just 5 minutes. These next-generation chargers not only supply power, but also cool the equipment, keeping them operating efficiently, even in extreme weather. For fleet operators, that means lower operating costs, reduced maintenance, and faster turnaround. And those advantages extend well beyond long-haul transport, benefiting heavy trucks working in ports, mines, and other high-density industrial operations.
The plan also covers freight hubs, ports, mining areas, factories, and industrial parks, with a goal to link these facilities into a well-connected and coordinated network.
Government incentives are also making the transition more affordable. Buyers can receive trade-in subsidies of more than $20,000 when purchasing a new electric heavy truck. This year, China has earmarked another $3 billion in ultra-long special treasury bonds to help retire older diesel trucks. The environmental impact is significant. Heavy-duty trucks account for nearly 40% of emissions from China's transport sector, making them one of the country's biggest opportunities for carbon reduction. And China's approach is now going global. The country recently exported 880 electric heavy-duty trucks in its largest overseas shipment to date. According to the manufacturer, the fleet could save customers around $22 million in annual operating costs, while reducing carbon emissions by roughly 80,000 metric tons each year. The question was never whether electric heavy trucks could work. It was whether they could be deployed at scale. China's experience may now provide a roadmap for other countries looking to electrify freight transport.
That was Huang Fei reporting. Coming up, Pakistan says it's still trying to mediate peace between the U.S. and Iran.
French luxury brand Louis Vuitton won in court. But is it losing China? A trademark lawsuit against Chinese tea brand Mali Tea has ignited a nationwide debate over trademark rights, cultural heritage, and brand perception. Was this simply a legal battle or a costly strategic misstep? As Chinese consumers become more confident and culturally conscious, is the playbook for international luxury brands changing? And could this case reshape the French luxury brand's future in China? Join us for an in-depth discussion of the Louis Vuitton Mali Tea dispute on this week's Chat Lounge, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on CGTN Radio.
9 minutes past the hour. Pakistan says negotiations between Iran and the United States are ongoing, especially concerning the Strait of Hormuz and the de-escalation of regional tensions. Islamabad says it's working to bring the two sides back to the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. It says diplomacy remains the only viable path as negotiations continue amid concerns over the security situation in the Middle East. A U.S. Central Command says American forces have carried out a new round of strikes on Iran following what they called the interception of a surprise Iranian attack on the U.S. military in the Middle East. It claims it hit dozens of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps targets. Iran says it's launched strikes on a U.S. airbase and the Central Command Center in Jordan. Asan Kevani has more.
IRGC says it struck a U.S. military command center and airbase in Jordan with multiple missiles, ballistic missiles early Wednesday, describing the attack as retaliation for aggressive actions by American forces. The IRGC says the retaliatory attack on Jordan is because of persistent threats posed by the U.S. warning that its resistance will continue as long as U.S. threats and illegal interventions against Iran continue, in fact. While everyone is talking about a 3-day pause in U.S. strikes, Iran's state television claims the northwestern Iranian province of West Azerbaijan, a border city named Piran Shah, was targeted with American projectiles. The report says the missile struck an uninhabited area and caused no casualties so far.
That was Ahsan Kayvani reporting. The U.S. has carried out joint airstrikes with Saudi Arabia against Iran-linked militants in Iraq. It's the first time Riyadh's publicly announced its participation in strikes alongside Washington. Jagriti Devi has more from Washington, D.C.
There were always fears that the conflict would widen across the region, and we're seeing a sign of that with US and Saudi Arabia conducting joint airstrikes against Iran-backed groups in Iraq. They say that the IRGC had directed their proxies in Iraq to attack US forces and Saudi Arabian energy infrastructure, and so US CENTCOM says it and Saudi Arabia conducted joint airstrikes targeting weapons and logistics sites in eastern Iraq. It is asking Iran and its proxies to stop their attacks to avoid any further repercussions. US President Donald Trump was asked on Fox News about new Iranian strikes against US forces and in what the US response would be, and he said that we'll be hitting them very hard. And of course, we're seeing the wider global ramifications of all of this, as well as the cessation of any kind of pause in fighting. We're also seeing oil prices climb on the resumption of those hostilities again. Benjamin Netanyahu continues to characterize the talks that he had with President Trump as a conversation of mutual support and understanding. Many observers note that the two started out on equal footing, with both of them launching those attacks against Iran together. But since then, their war aims appear to have diverged, with the president at times favoring diplomacy over more sustained attacks that the Israeli leader may have wanted. The president at least promised to get to end soon, and that has not yet materialized.
That was Jagriti Devi reporting. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi has chaired an emergency National Security Council meeting in response to the joint U.S.-Saudi strikes on Iran-backed paramilitary groups in Iraq. The Prime Minister's office condemned the attack, saying it'll develop a security plan to confront any violation of Iraqi sovereignty and prevent any source from threatening neighboring countries. Iranian media reports say 4 Revolutionary Guard military advisors died in the strikes. The Iranian Foreign Ministry condemned the attack, calling it a violation of Iraqi sovereignty and territorial integrity, and a breach of the UN Charter. Iraq's al-Nujaba movement has warned the U.S. and Saudi Arabia of consequences following their joint strikes in Iraq. The U.S. has designated the movement as a terrorist group. It's part of the Popular Mobilization Forces, a network of Shia majority factions established in 2014 to fight the Islamic State group. The attacks have heightened regional tensions and prompted the Iraqi Prime Minister to cancel a planned visit to Saudi Arabia. Michal Bar-David has more.
Iraq awoke to a sharp escalation in regional tensions after Saudi Arabia, in coordination with the United States, launched strikes on Iraq's al-Nujaba movement that it accused of carrying out a series of drone attacks on the kingdom's energy infrastructure. Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF, said at least 20 of its members were killed and dozens injured in strikes targeting several of its bases. At funerals in Baghdad, mourners carried coffins draped in Iraqi and Iranian flags, chanting slogans against the United States and Saudi Arabia. Baghdad condemned the joint strikes as a violation of Iraq's sovereignty, while urging all sides to avoid further escalation. Meanwhile, the Islamic resistance in Iraq gave the government an August 6th deadline to demonstrate it can defend the country's sovereignty, warning that its response would otherwise be inevitable.
This aggression will not go unpunished. It was not only an attack on the Popular Mobilization Forces, it was an attack on all of Iraq, on its political system and its sovereignty. We are an integral part of the Iraqi state, and this attack targeted Iraq as a whole.
In Mosul, the aftermath revealed the escalation of the destruction. Burned out vehicles, damaged buildings, and scattered debris remained as some Iraqi lawmakers called for a tougher response.
We demanded that the Iraqi government immediately cut diplomatic and economic relations with Saudi Arabia and expel the Saudi ambassador. If these strikes are ignored, more will follow, and they may be even stronger.
One political analyst says the latest strikes could mark a broader shift in the regional conflict, with implications extending well beyond Iraq.
It's clear that the conflict has shifted from proxy warfare to direct confrontation. These strikes also reflect a shift in how the Gulf states are positioning themselves toward Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. It is becoming increasingly difficult for Iraq to remain on the sidelines, as it has become part of the broader confrontation between the United States and Iran.
Iraqi officials say they are now preparing a broader security plan aimed at strengthening control on the ground, safeguarding the country's sovereignty, and preventing Iraqi territory from being used to threaten neighboring states.
That was Michal Bar-David reporting. The UN's urging de-escalation in the U.S.-Iran conflict as tensions spike across the region. UN spokesperson Farhan Haq says Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a return to diplomatic efforts, including mediation by Pakistan and Qatar.
Well, the Secretary General has been worried for some time that if the parties do not return to negotiations, you could have a widening of the conflict. And that seems to be what has been happening in recent hours. He has already made clear his concerns about any new renewed fighting and any escalation and widening of the conflict. So these are not positive developments. And he wants to make sure that the parties can cease fighting and again return to the diplomatic efforts, including the mediation efforts being pressed forward by Pakistan, Qatar, and others.
The appeal came after Iran fired missiles at American forces in the Middle East, while the U.S. and Saudi Arabia launched those coordinated airstrikes in Iraq. The flare-up raises fears of all-out war and underscores the challenge of ending a 5-month conflict that's jolted the global economy. Coming up, a Zambian copper mine revived by a Chinese firm has spawned a hit song online.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
At 18 past the hour, a song about a copper mine in Zambia has become an unexpected online hit. With its powerful chorus and uplifting rhythm, many listeners have compared it to a World Cup anthem. But behind the catchy melody is the story of a century-old mine, revived through China-Zambia cooperation. Gao Junia has more.
Dust on the red road, hard on the boots.
The hit song, Chambishi Copper Mine, was not produced by professional musicians. It was written by Xu Laixiang, Deputy CEO of NFCA, a subsidiary of China Non-Ferrous Metal Mining Group that operates the Chambishi Copper Mine in Zambia. And the song is performed not by professional singers, but by the company's employees.
Chambishi Copper Mine, rise again, rise again.
Xu Laixiang said he created the song to share the mine's history.
So Chambishi Copper Mine was discovered in 1899, over 100 years ago. It has difficult times, including many years of closure. So later, Chinese and Zambian workers worked together to bring it back to life. So I felt the story is not only can be told by reports or numbers, it could also be told through music.
Chambishi Copper Mine ceased production in the 1980s, before China's Non-Ferrous Metal Mining Group invested in the project. Today, it has become one of Zambia's most modern mining operations. The lyrics reflect that journey of renewal.
The song is about labor, hope, and rebirth. Championship Copper Mine has gone through hard times, but it has risen again. So the mine is not only a place of copper production, it's also a place of work, dreams, families, and friendship.
The song has resonated not only in China, but also among employees at the mine itself. Its performers are miners, drivers, electricians, and housekeeping staff who make up the company's own band. Mofia Bangui is a legal officer with NFCA.
It's part of our commitment to recognize talent and skill. The very song itself has given sort of a recognition culture among ourselves as employees, Certain employees from different departments may not know each other, but because of the song, they get to know each other. There is this harmonic understanding among the miners to recognize one another and being proud of a product of NFCA, that is the Chambishi Copper Mine song by our very own band.
Bangui says the song has strengthened company culture while highlighting the broader impact the mine has had on surrounding communities through jobs, training, and social programs.
There's been so much change. There have been so many people that have been employed. I think that's one very significant thing that we should note. And besides the employment, the mine it's extending itself. There is much opportunity even for the community. And I think that's the story that I've heard most from our people to say, especially if you go to NFCA, it's one of those mines that usually trains employees with technology that they haven't used before. When they are well acquainted with it, they learn those skills, they become very, very highly, targeted professional individuals when they decide to leave the mine.
What began as a song about one copper mine has become a tribute to resilience, friendship, and China-Zambia cooperation. And its story continues to reach audiences far beyond the mine itself. For the Beijing Hour, this is Gao Junya.
The earthquake that hit southwest Japan this week has killed at least 30 people as of Thursday. A 5.8 quake struck Kumamoto on Wednesday, a day after one with a magnitude of 6.8 hit the same region. Shane Ham has more.
When my crew and I arrived here in Kumamoto Prefecture yesterday, we were all startled late last night when all our phones rang with a high-pitched alert. And seconds later, literally, we felt that tremor, and it later turned out to be that magnitude 5 aftershock. We're coming up on 48 hours now, but the search and rescue efforts continue, particularly over at that large shopping mall where that large explosion occurred. According to the operator of that shopping mall, 3 of its workers still remain unaccounted for. 8 had been pulled from the rubble. And just to give you a sense of where I'm standing right now, I'm in the township of Uki in Kumamoto Prefecture. I'm at a local community center where an evacuation shelter has been set up. People coming here to get water because basic necessities are still not in hand. The entire economy of this area, the industries that have been affected, a paper mill factory collapsed. The chimney there collapsed, trapping its workers, where 5 people lost their lives, and search and rescue efforts continue there as well. But of course, here in southern Japan, it's home to a lot of also automobile facilities. Toyota has seen its productions at its motorcycle facilities here delayed through Friday, and semiconductors, of course, a big industry here with Tokyo Electron and Sony Semiconductors also seeing delays in production through Friday.
That was Shane Ham in Kumamoto. Wildfires in Spain have scorched vast areas of land and displaced hundreds of thousands of people over the past couple of weeks. Firefighters are battling flames outside Madrid, where officials say nearly 340 square kilometers have burned. The Spanish Interior Minister warns of 3 tough days ahead, with strong winds and high temperatures. Ken Brown has more from the Spanish capital.
We've just been given access to a residential area that's been destroyed by this fire. Around 100 houses around the Comunidad de Madrid have been completely devastated. This car has been burnt up. I'm going to take you around the corner here to show you just how one of these houses looks after this fire. Just over here, it's been just devastated. There's a lot of uneven ground. This house was a wooden house. It went up in flames. Almost nothing left of it. Now, we are hearing some good news. We heard from the Interior Minister, Fernando Grande Marlaska. He talked about how the fires have been contained. They're one step from being under control. They said that they're stabilized. That means that we're on the path to the fires in Madrid, in Toledo and Avila being extinguished. Now, that is not the case in the east of the country, in Castellón, in Valencia. That fire is still out of control. Over 10,000 hectares have burned. What we're seeing here are just some real harrowing stories and some miracles. Look at this house right next to the one that I've just showed you. Absolutely perfect. Nothing happened to it. But go one further down the street there, and it's another house that's been completely carbonized. We talked to the people who live in that house or who lived there. That nobody can live there at the moment. They were in Denmark on holiday. The app for their home alarm went off because the flames started reaching their home. They tried to call the authorities from Denmark, but it was too late. Their house completely destroyed. They are now picking through the rubble. Now it's a time where many people are counting the cost here. The Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said that some difficult hours remain ahead. We've just entered into the summer's fourth heat wave. It's almost 40 degrees here in Madrid, and the winds have picked up as well, so that means that we could have reignition in the fires that already exist and new fires. We're hearing that one has started already in Zamora in the north, to the north of the country. So this story not over yet in Spain. Wildfires raging across the country.
That was Ken Brown reporting. France is bracing for worsening conditions as wildfires burn in the southwest. In Bordeaux, firefighters are battling blazes in tinder dry forests fueled by an intense heat wave and prolonged drought. The fires have forced mass evacuations and emergency teams are stretched thin. Sarah Coates has more from Bordeaux.
Important to mention that not all of this is deliberate arson. Some of this is careless use of fire. I think things like barbecues are being turned on in these very, very dry areas, people throwing cigarette butts out the windows of their cars. There are also people that have been taken into custody for looting after evacuations in many of these areas surrounding Bordeaux, while actually in Bordeaux itself at that exhibition centre that we were at the other day, which is of course hosting thousands of these evacuees. People filling up their water tankers. These are firefighters, also farmers who are really come from all over the country to assist these firefighters on the front lines, trying to get these devastating wildfires under control. We have heard that some people haven't slept in 2 days. It was just announced earlier today that these people here, that they're being assisted by a local group of physiotherapists. They've been mobilised to add some additional backup to these people who've been fighting these fires now for more than a week. So certainly a massive effort underway. Also just heard from the authorities, the health authorities, that there are some 5 million masks that are being delivered to the areas surrounding Bordeaux and to pharmacies inside Bordeaux. And that is simply because the amount of smoke that these fires have been putting off, it is expected to linger in the air for a number of weeks, and that is even if these fires are extinguished very soon. And of course, the air quality is extremely poor.
That was Sarah Coates reporting. 3 Greek firefighters have died while battling fierce wildfires sweeping across the island of Crete. 2 other crew members are trapped after their vehicle was caught between advancing fire fronts. And authorities have ordered the evacuation of residents and tourists from the area as strong winds continue to fuel the uncontrollable flames. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing getting thunder showers overnight and through the day tomorrow. A low of 25, it's up to 31 on Friday. Shanghai will be cloudy tonight, becoming overcast tomorrow. A low of 29 and a high of 38. Chongqing's getting cloudy conditions this evening, followed by a light rainfall. A low of 31 and a high of 39. Nanchang is getting clouds this evening and through tomorrow. A low of 26, a high of 34. Laos is getting showers through tomorrow with a low of 13 and a high of 24 degrees. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see moderate rainfall right through tomorrow, a low of 24. It's a high of 31 for Friday. Vientiane will see heavy rainfall through tomorrow with a low of 24 and a high of 29 degrees. Phnom Penh's getting heavy rainfall as well through tomorrow, a low of 24 and a high of 30. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, the Communist Party of China's announced plans for the 5th plenary session of its 20th Central Committee in Beijing in October. Pakistan says negotiations are ongoing to de-escalate the Middle East conflict between the U.S. and Iran. The Zambian copper mine, revived by a Chinese company, has become the unlikely subject of a hit song. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
The transition to a greener future is no longer a distant goal. It's happening now. In power plants, factories, farms, and cities across China. As the world grapples with climate change, energy security, and the growing demand for electricity, China is searching for new ways to cut emissions while keeping its economy moving. Across the country, our reporters visit renewable energy hubs, industrial centers, and agricultural communities to see what that transformation looks like in practice. Through first-hand stories and on-the-ground reporting, we explore the opportunities, the challenges, and the ideas shaping China's green transition. Listen to China's Green Code, Rewriting the Rules of Growth, a special series from Climate Watch, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday. Still to come. In business, China's light industry sectors are growing in quality and scale. In sports, 2 Chinese snooker players have booked spots in the quarterfinals of the Shanghai Masters. In culture and entertainment, China's unveiled a new cultural heritage development plan. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTN Radio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. But first, with a check of the day's headlines, here's Tanyu.
Thank you, Shane. The Communist Party of China will hold the 5th plenary session of its 20th Central Committee in Beijing in October. A political bureau meeting chaired by General Secretary Xi Jinping announced the decision on Thursday. The political bureau will report its work to the Central Committee, while the plenum will focus on advancing the party's full and rigorous self-governance. Thursday's meeting also reviewed the current economic situation and made arrangements for economic work in the second half of the year. The CPC Central Committee has held a symposium with non-members to seek opinions on the country's current economic situation and economic work for the second half of the year. General Secretary Xi Jinping of the CPC Central Committee presided over the symposium and delivered a speech. He stressed the need to maintain a steady economic approach while pursuing progress, to fully implement the new development philosophy, and to accelerate efforts to foster a new development dynamic. He also called for enhancing the effectiveness of policies, expanding domestic demand, and promoting deeper integration of technological and industrial innovation. China and Thailand will hold a joint Air Force exercise next month. According to the Chinese Defense Ministry, China will send various aircraft and units, including ground-based air defense forces, for drills on air defense, humanitarian assistance, and disaster relief. The exercise marks the 9th training event between the two air forces and aims to deepen cooperation and traditional friendship between Beijing and Bangkok. Chinese scientists have developed a new typhoon forecast system. In tests against 62 typhoons, the system matched leading global models for 24-hour forecasts and outperformed them for longer periods, reducing track errors by up to 32% and improving uncertainty estimates by 29%. Researchers say it requires less computing power than other AI models. The team plans to extend the framework to other extreme weather events. China's Wenchang spacecraft launch site has completed its 50th launch mission since beginning operations in 2016, after a Long March 7A rocket successfully sent the Tianlian 301 satellite into its preset orbit on Wednesday. The satellite will provide data relay and telemetry, tracking and command services for crewed spacecraft, space stations, and Earth-orbiting satellites. Located in Hainan Province, Wenchang is China's first independently designed modern space launch site and will support future missions, including Chang'e 7 and China's manned lunar exploration program. UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq says the world body is urging all sides in the U.S.-Iran conflict to de-escalate as fears grow over a wider regional war.
One thing we don't want to see is any expansion of the conflict. So having more parties involved in the fighting, having the fighting spread to a larger number of countries, all of these are adverse developments and could get us into a much worse situation even than before.
The UN chief has urged all parties to cease fighting and return to diplomatic efforts, including mediation efforts under the guidance of Pakistan, Qatar, and others. And finally, wildfires in France's Bordeaux region are dealing a fresh blow to the area's economy. Winemaker Edouard Legris de la Salle is frustrated because local events were cancelled due to fires far away, hurting his business unfairly.
Yes, we are impacted by the fires in the wine tourism. We lost about 30% of the flow of the tourists. So yes, we are impacted, and we are obliged to cancel our Ganguette. Is a party on Friday night, and we are obliged to cancel because everything is cancelled in the Bordeaux region, in the Gironde. Every cultural events and sportive as well. So yes, it's a pity because here there is no risk of fires. We are very far from the fires. We are about 60 kilometers. So we don't understand this decision.
Bordeaux's wine industry was already struggling with falling consumption and U.S. tariffs.
All right, thank you. That's Tian Yu with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in business, China's light industry sectors are growing in quality and scale.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past now with business. Here's Wang Zihang.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed lower on Thursday. The Shanghai Composite was down over 0.6%. The Shenzhen component lost more than 2.7%. Oilfield, engineering and medical care shares led the gainers. Elsewhere, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose nearly 0.2%. Japan's Nikkei increased 0.7%. China's light industry is producing goods of higher quality and its domestic market is expanding. Export growth has also surged through the first half of this year. According to the China National Light Industry Council, value-added output increased by 5% on a yearly basis. Surveyed companies generated operating revenue of 11.2 trillion yuan. The council says overall production remained largely stable, with 54 out of 91 major light industrial products recording output increases. 14 product categories, including lithium-ion batteries and refrigerators, maintained double-digit growth. Retail sales of 11 categories surpassed 4.3 trillion yuan, an increase of 4.4%. The export value of the goods reached more than $487 billion, up 6.7%. 14 industries, including home appliances and batteries, each recorded exports exceeding $10 billion, indicating a strong performance for new growth drivers. China's cultural industry generated more than 1 trillion yuan in revenue in the first half of this year. That's around $148 billion, up 4.6%. The result was based on a National Bureau of Statistics survey of 82,000 major cultural businesses. It is seen as a clear sign that the sector is on a solid growth path. At the same time, the China travel wave is gaining strength. Border checkpoints recorded nearly 370 million passenger trips in and out of the country, up 10.8%, and the highest number ever. Meantime, tax refund transactions in the first 3 months were nearly 5 times what they were a year earlier. Now, for more on the cultural sector, Li Lilu spoke with Zhao Yupei, Vice Dean of the College of Media and International Culture at Zhejiang University.
So China's cultural sector, as we said, posted a over 4.5% growth revenue in first half 2026. Quite impressive figure there. What is fueling this revenue and profit expansion?
Actually, this is not just a number. It signals a structural shift.
The real engine for me are digital content and experience. The services that we have right now have upgraded. So let's look at the standout performers. The digital publishing serving actually by the 32%, and the cultural software up to 22%. So actually we have seen a definite move away from the traditional format towards the high-tech, high-interactive sectors. So for example, like the immersive experience like e-sport or animation, essentially China's culture industry is evolving into the digital-first, services-oriented ecosystem. Inbound touring actually is clearly scaled up, but more fascinating story is actually we can see the reverse shopping trend. Spending by inbound travelers has jumped nearly 40% to the top $113 billion. So crucially, what they have buying actually has changed. The tourists are not just picking the trinkets anymore. They are investing in the Chinese shop, the smartphones, the drones, design toys, for etc. So this shift actually shows that China is no longer just a scenic destination, but a hub for the tech, lifestyle, and cultural branding. So one trip now spans multiple consumption scenarios, from a museum visit to buying a smartphone. That's creating a much richer economic footprint.
That was Zhao Yupei at Zhejiang University sharing her insights on China's cultural sector revenue growth. China has announced that Canadian passport holders can now stay in the country visa-free for up to 30 days as part of efforts to enhance bilateral cooperation and people-to-people exchanges. The policy is encouraging more Canadians to visit China while also giving a lift to travel agencies. Nina Devouris reports from Toronto.
The summer travel season is in full swing, and Canadians are getting the travel bug for China.
I love being in Asia. I love it. I love the food. I love the people. I love the atmosphere.
Hillary and Robert Tam traveled to China earlier this year because of the visa-free policy. They visited a friend in Guangzhou.
It was really nice that just in the time that we were about to go, this policy came into place.
That is also the area Robert's parents are originally from. He's been to China before with his parents when he was younger, but says it was nice to go again as an adult, adding that he was impressed to see so many electric vehicles in China.
That was interesting. And obviously, like, the cars are all, like a lot of the Chinese brand, like BYDs and things that we have yet to see much of in Canada. So it's interesting to see that kind of stuff.
Earlier this year, the Canadian government announced an increase in direct flights to China from Canada in order to help boost tourism and trade among the two countries.
This includes Air Canada bringing back direct flights from Toronto to Shanghai. At least 1.7 million Canadian residents are of Chinese origin. And an Air Canada spokesperson recently told Pax News that the Canada-China market is, quote, extremely important to the airline. And the visa-free policy for Canadians is increasing business for travel agencies.
This year, travel to China is going up very quick. I think we are facing almost 2 or 3 times growing compared to last year.
Taipan Tours offer a variety of options for visitors to China, including vacation packages to Beijing and Shanghai, as well as more off-the-beaten-track options. Leo says they are getting positive feedback from customers, and he hopes a visa-free policy for Canadians will extend beyond the December 31st expiry date this year, adding that travel is such a great way for different cultures to learn more about one another.
The Chinese people face to the other countries' people, and all let the people from other countries to know Chinese people. So that's a very good way for both ways.
As for Robert and Hillary, they plan to visit China again and see more, including what is popularly known as the Avatar Mountains in the Hunan province, the inspiration for the floating mountains in the film Avatar.
It's like these very scenic mountains that you have to like take a train to in the middle of nowhere, but they're like these stunning pillars that come out of the fog, essentially. And I don't think you could see that anywhere else in the world.
That was Nina Devouris reporting. China's open-source AI models are continuing to gain global momentum. The latest Spring 2026 report from the world's largest open-source AI model platform, Hugging Face, shows Chinese-developed models now account for 41% of all global downloads. Chinese teams also occupy the top 6 spots in the world's leading large model rankings. As of spring, Chinese models had remained at the industry's open-source frontier for 9 out of 12 months, underscoring rapid innovation. Meantime, data from OpenRouter shows Chinese large language models processed over 36 trillion tokens during the third week of July, marking a 12th consecutive week at the top of global usage. Together, the figures point to China's growing influence in AI development and the worldwide adoption of open-source models. Samsung Electronics posted record-high earnings in the second quarter. The South Korean company's operating profit surged over 1,800% from a year earlier to reach an all-time high of nearly 90 trillion won in the April to June quarter. That's around $62.6 billion. The profit beat market expectations of about 84.2 trillion won. Its revenue jumped 130% to hit a new high of 171.5 trillion won, and the net income skyrocketed 1,300% to over 71.6 trillion. The company says the performance was driven by soaring demand for memory chips amid global artificial intelligence investments. According to the company, its chip business achieved another record-breaking quarter by proactively addressing AI demand.
All right, thank you very much. That's Wang Ziheng with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, 2 Chinese snooker players have booked spots in the quarterfinals of the Shanghai Masters.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
46 past, and with sports now, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In snooker, China's Zhao Xintong and Wu Yizhe have booked their places in the quarterfinals of the Shanghai Masters after convincing victories in the all-Chinese second-round matches. Reigning world champion Zhao defeated veteran Ding Junhui 6-2 with 3 century breaks to set up a quarterfinal clash with world number 2 Neil Robertson. After the match, Ding praised Zhao's consistency and precision.
At the moment, I think Zhao is the more consistent player and has the edge whenever we play. I hope he can develop into an even more complete player and continue to improve. You can see that he's now capable of handling big tournaments like this. I am looking forward to his performance in the future. I may need a robotic arm to match his accuracy.
Zhao thanked Dean for the compliments and said he found his rhythm as the match progressed.
I'd like to thank Ding for his praise. I felt that I played better in the second half of the match. Once I started capitalizing on my chances, my game became much smoother. I think I allowed him many chances in the first couple of frames. Maybe he hadn't quite found his touch and missed those chances.
In another all-Chinese matchup, reigning world champion Wu Yizhe also won 6-2, defeating Si Jiahui to reach the last 8. Wu will now face Sean Murphy in the rematch of this year's World Championship final. In volleyball, host China is out of the FIVB Men's Nations League finals after losing to Japan 3-1 in the quarterfinals in Ningbo. China took the opening set but could not maintain that momentum as Japan fought back to win the next 3 and secure a place in the semifinals. China finished 8th overall as the lowest-ranked team in the finals. Despite the defeat, China's Jiang Chuan said the home tournament provided valuable experience ahead of the future major competitions.
It's really disappointing to lose today, especially when we had big opportunities in both the first and full sets. That said, this match was still hugely valuable for us. Playing the finals at home is special. Japan's a team we will inevitably face again at the Asian Championships and the Asian Games. They're always a tough opponent. We need to take lessons from this loss and use them to get better.
Japan will advance to the semifinals where they will face either Italy or the United States. China's women's sabre team has matched its best ever finish at the Fencing World Championships. It claimed the silver medal after a 45-41 loss to Hungary in the final in Hong Kong. The Chinese team made a strong start and stayed in contention throughout the match before Hungary sealed victory in the closing stages. Despite falling just short of the title, the result equals China's previous best performance in the event, matching the silver medal the team won at the 2003 World Championships. Shandong Weiqiao and Shandong Luneng remain unbeaten in the second stop of the Chinese Table Tennis Super League regular season with commanding victories in Xun'an. On the men's side, Shandong Weiqiao defeated Anhui Zhongchen 8-2 to extend their winning streak to 7 matches and stay atop of the standings. World number 1 Wang Chuqin contributed a singles victory and later reflected on his performance.
My overall performance was pretty steady throughout the match, yet I ran into some troubles after the score was tied at 5-5 in third game. I was kind of hard on myself. I need to fix that kind of thinking. I kept trying to play shots exactly how I imagined them, but this is a competitive match. Opponents will constantly restrict your rhythm. I can't just impose my own expectations on the game. Adjustments are necessary. Matches are one thing, training is another.
In the women's competition, Shandong Luneng also stayed atop the table with an 8-3 victory over Tianjin, maintaining their perfect record in the regular season. FIFA has opened disciplinary proceedings against Argentine Football Association and several Argentina players over alleged breaches during the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The World Football governing body said the cases involve incidents during multiple matches, including allegations of discriminatory chants and gestures, delayed kickoffs, breaches of match and security protocols, inappropriate messages, and objects thrown from the stands. Separate proceedings have also been launched against Argentina players Leandro Paredes, Nahuel Molina, and Diego Almada, team official Roberto Ayala, and Spain midfielder Gavi over incidents following the World Cup final, which Spain won 1-0 on July 19th. According to FIFA, the individuals involved have also been given the opportunity to respond before the disciplinary committee reaches its decisions. And finally, Brazil head coach Carlo Ancelotti says the team will begin building for the 2030 FIFA World Cup following its last 16 exits at this year's tournament. Speaking in Rio de Janeiro for the first time since Brazil's elimination by Norway, the 67-year-old said a new generation of players will shape the team's future. Ancelotti also paid tribute to Neymar, who retired from international football after a 16-year career as Brazil's all-time leading scorer with 80 goals.
But this is part of a natural journey for a great talent, Neymar, who was born with it, worked very hard, and left behind a legend, an honor for the national team. Because Neymar, the face of the national team around the world, has followed a natural path as a football player, just like others who conclude an important chapter with the national team, and we wish him the best. We spent little time together, but I can say I'm very fond of him because he was serious and professional, qualities that could really help.
Neymar now plays for Brazilian club Santos, where his contract is due to expire in December.
Thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, China's unveiled a new cultural heritage development plan.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
52 past the hour. China will expand archaeological cooperation around the world as part of a new cultural heritage development plan through 2030. The National Cultural Heritage Administration says the country will launch more joint archaeological projects in Austronesian-speaking regions, trans-Himalayan areas, and along the Silk Road and Maritime Silk Road routes. The plan also aims to strengthen efforts to trace and recover lost Chinese cultural relics overseas. The blueprint calls for deeper international partnerships and greater Chinese participation in global cultural heritage governance. It also sets a goal of increasing annual museum visits to 1.6 billion by 2030, while encouraging museums to present more high-quality exhibitions highlighting Chinese civilization. China's online literature industry continues to grow in scale and global influence. A report says the number of online literary works in China surpassed 33 million in 2025, while overseas readership reached around 250 million, reflecting the rising international appeal of Chinese online fiction. The 2026 China Online Literature Forum released the figures in Hefei, Anhui Province. Well, music is often considered the form of communication that can most easily cross borders and bring people closer. In southwest China, a group of young Germans are learning Chinese through music and cultural experiences. Yang Jinghao has more from Yunnan.
These students are from Germany. On the stage in Pu'er, southwest China's Yunnan province, their performance has captivated the audience with sincerity and passion.
I'm very proud of all of us. We worked really hard. It was a nice kind of get-together.
I liked very much to sing with kids and also with Chinese adults. I enjoyed it, and it's a little bit sad that it's over now.
The camp is organized by the Chinese choir at the Berg in Germany, aimed at helping these young people learn Chinese and experience diverse cultures in Yunnan. The choir story dates back to 2014, when Peng Liyuan, wife of Chinese President Xi Jinping, visited a centuries-old local high school and encouraged students there to learn Chinese through songs. Inspired by that visit, the choir was founded later that year and has since attracted a growing number of German students.
It's a choir, it's a group of young people, and it's also a bridge between the Chinese youth and also the German youth, but also between the two nations.
For these young people, singing in Chinese is both challenging and enjoyable.
For me, the most difficult part is definitely to learn the lyrics by heart. But the most enjoyable part is just like singing together with everybody. I wish I could do it every day. I really love it.
I really enjoy the learning process because every day I can get new vocabulary.
Beyond rehearsals, they also immerse themselves in Yunnan's vibrant local traditions. They say the trip has been both rewarding and inspiring. A song can cross borders, and a melody can bring people closer. For these German students, every Chinese lyric they sing is another step toward understanding a culture thousands of kilometers away.
That was Yang Jinghao reporting. A screening campaign for Chinese films and TV programs has begun in the Kenyan capital. The campaign showcases over 20 Chinese productions across 12 African countries via 15 mainstream media outlets with versions in English, French, Swahili, and Portuguese. The productions include dramas, documentaries, animated series, and variety shows. The Bond Season 6 coincides with the 70th anniversary of China-Africa diplomatic ties. Since its launch in 2021, the exhibition, hosted by China Media Group, has partnered with over 50 media outlets in more than 40 African countries, broadcasting over 120 Chinese films and TV productions. China's traditional music and intangible cultural heritage have taken center stage at the 40th Jerash Festival of Culture and Arts in Jordan. A Chinese arts delegation presented a folk music concert and the ancient Roman hippodrome in the historic city of Jerash. Founded in 1981, the festival is one of the Middle East's largest cultural events. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing expecting thunder showers overnight and through tomorrow. A low of 25, it's up to 31 on Friday. Shanghai will be cloudy through tomorrow with a low of 29 and a high of 38. Chongqing's getting clouds overnight, a light rain developing tomorrow, a low of 31. The high is 39 degrees. Nanchang's getting clouds through tomorrow, a low of 26 and a high of 34. Lhasa will be getting showers through tomorrow, a low of 13. The high is 24 degrees Celsius. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, the Communist Party of China has announced plans for the 5th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee in Beijing in October. And Pakistan says negotiations are ongoing to de-escalate the Middle East conflict between the U.S. and Iran. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
The best military commander is not he who fights 100 battles and wins every one of them. The best military strategy does not lead to the desiccation of the enemy's capital city. Decoding the Art of War will help you understand why there's no art in war and how Sun Tzu stayed undefeatable using the science of war with fun stories and insightful breakdown of famous battles. Find Decoding the Art of War wherever you listen.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope, the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Seazon Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth. as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kunlun to the winds of Tangula, the wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.